Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Views from the Top. I'm Scott Sturgeon, founder and senior wealth advisor at Oread Wealth Partners. We are a fee-only fiduciary financial planning and wealth management firm. On today's episode, we're going to be talking the 5 key points for business owners to consider prior to selling their business. And actually, there's 5 key points, but I'm going to talk through the top 3, not necessarily in any priority of order. I just think that I could go on these 5. This video would last for 2 hours and you would be bored. So we're just gonna hit the top 3. If you'd like to read the full article, the full list of all 5, it'll be linked in the description below. Go ahead and check that out. And obviously, as you're reading through that, if you have questions, concerns, what have you, reach out. You can book time with me directly through our website, www.oreadwealth.com. There's a link in the bottom right hand of your screen. So without further ado, 5 key points for business owners selling their business. The first one is mapping out your timeline, mapping out your time frame, or at least having an understanding of what your time frame is going to look like. And I'll start this kind of chronologically. I think a lot of business owners, they've built something from the ground up. Their blood, sweat, tears, time, weekends, nights, all of these things, having been juggling all these things for probably a long time to make a successful business. And sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day of that and not necessarily be looking 5, 10, 15 steps ahead of what is my ultimate objective for this business and what do I want to do with it? If I want to exit the business, as we're going to kind of discuss today, what is my kind of expectation of timing to get fully out of the business, and kind of what will things look like after that? So the first thing is just kind of setting objectives and timeframes. And this one is really hard, candidly. It can take several years to potentially sell a business, depending on the complexity, what the key employees look like, what the ownership structure looks like, kind of what the different varying owners are looking to do. If it's a sole owner, what do you want your company to look like? What do you want your involvement to look like over the long term? Do you want to just be able to throw the keys behind you and walk away forever? Or do you want to kind of stay involved at a varying amount over time? Do you want to pull liquidity from the business? All of these questions, I think, are very important to kind of think through and to then dictate what the time frame will look like. Because when you think about it, for the moment someone decides, I want to 100% exit and sell my business, there is a very low likelihood that they could go out tomorrow, find a buyer, get all the terms, all the agreements, all the pricing, all the equity movement back and forth, all of that done in a day, and then get the check that day and sail off into the sunset forever, right? You can do that with stocks. You can do that with even homes. You can technically, I suppose, sell very quickly, but businesses, just by the nature of their complexity, the parties involved, it takes time. And sometimes it can take months, sometimes it can take years. But having an understanding and a realization that it could be that long, that maybe you have to sell, but even maybe the new buyer wants you to be involved for a period of time after the sale closes. Maybe it's in maintaining contracts, maybe maintaining relationships that are important to the business, all of these factors. So I think realizing that element is important. And so typically, the default answer is to just say, well, the sooner the better. And I think that's correct. But I think if this is something you haven't really considered or thought through, maybe start kind of ruminating a little bit on that and just thinking, okay, well, hypothetically, in a hypothetical world, with me not involved in this business anymore, what do things look like? And what are the steps I'm going to need to take to get there? So again, that process could take weeks, months, years, depending on a myriad of factors. But the sooner you can get on it and kind of start to map out and outline that time frame, the better off you're going to be. So point number 2 is succession planning 101. Who is going to run things when you are no longer running things? And for some businesses, this is going to be trickier than others. Some, it's not even going to be a consideration at all. The new buyer is going to come in. There's going to be very minimal handoff, and you'll take your check, your proceeds, or maybe an installment sale over a period of time, and that'll be that. For some business owners, maybe with families that have family members involved in ownership of the business, or have even more so with various ownership stakes in the business, the complexity of how that succession plan is going to look and what it's going to look over the long term is going to be obviously a lot more complex. Making sure that's something that you have started to think through a little bit, and I think being certainly cautious and considerate of the various parties that you're going to need to involve as you go down that path. Sometimes less is more. So, for example, if you are equal 50-50 partners with someone else and you have multiple employees, but the two of you have the 100% stake in the company, maybe having a conversation with just that one individual is going to be a good place to start, making sure that the two of you are on the same boat, same place of where you want to be, and kind of what an exit would look like. I would also say involving your spouse or significant other or someone who's going to have obviously a decent say in kind of what things are going to look like is also going to be very important. So making sure, but I guess I would say all of your interested parties, making sure that they are cautiously looped in as necessary. Typically, it's going to be more beneficial for you to keep things typically on the down low and limit the involvement of outside parties as much as possible. But certainly, you can't just probably go into your business partner's office tomorrow and demand a check for him to buy you out. That would probably be a little bit make things a little salty, just as a hunch. But in general, you just never know. So I think having that succession plan in place and even broaching it before, even maybe if a sale or an exit is not even on your radar, but making sure that you have a plan in place, that you've discussed it with those parties that are going to have a relevant decision in the process, potentially down the line, is really just important. It's going to help smooth out a lot of potential wrinkles down the line, and I think honestly just offer a lot of peace of mind of maybe not even necessarily a sale, but if something were to happen to you tomorrow, what does your ownership stake in your business look like, and who takes over, kind of what that whole process looks like. Succession Planning 101 is so key and so critical and so important to making sure that process happens smoothly. Okay, third point, finding tax efficiencies. So if your business is successful and maybe it's very profitable, you're probably drawing a salary from your business of some sort. On top of that, you are probably, whether you realize it or not, but I bet you do realize it, are paying a lot of money in taxes. The way that the tax code is structured and the way our tax brackets are structured, it's progressive, it's tiered. So the more money you earn, as those dollar values go up, the higher the taxes are on those dollars. And so if you are looking, especially currently, even if you're not looking, but don't have like necessarily a retirement plan in place or some means of shielding some of that income from those higher tax brackets, looking into setting up some sort of structure that's a best fit for your business and the structure of your business is a good approach to have. And really that's something that doesn't necessarily have to be done even if you're looking to sell immediately. It's honestly even better the longer out from a sale that you can implement something like that is going to be probably a decent option to consider. So things like profit sharing plans, obviously 401ks are very common, but there's also a variety of other kinds of retirement plans that can be a little more uniquely structured that aren't necessarily as common, but can be really beneficial, especially for business owners, to structure and prevent a lot of that, shield, again, a lot of that income from those higher tax brackets. So a lot of that can be implemented. Sometimes it takes time to do, but can be really, really beneficial for obviously, shielding a lot of your income and building wealth as well. But even for employee retention and making sure that a lot of key employees, kind of back to that point 2 of succession planning, have a vested interest in the success of the business. It can be really a really powerful motivator over time. So certainly something to consider. The earlier you can do that, the better. Typically a minimum of 5 years prior to sale is going to be a time frame you'd want to look to implement that. That's just per IRS guidance. So certainly something to consider, but can be really beneficial over time. As I mentioned, there are 2 more important points that I felt like were really relevant to kind of this discussion of sale or preparing to exit a business, and I included those in the long form article of this content. So if you want to check it out, it's at our website. It's in the blog, linked directly below in the description. Go ahead and check that out. I encourage you to do so. As always, if you have questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts on any of these topics that you see in any of these videos, reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation. You can do so by scheduling time directly if it's convenient for you through a link that's in the bottom right-hand corner of every web page at www.oreadwealth.com. For Oread Wealth, I'm Scott Sturgeon, founder and senior wealth advisor. Thank you again, as always, for tuning in to Views from the Top.